did I not realize this sooner?
I'm gonna record it.
I want to get started with the inciting incident because, you know, when you're in that big of a blowout fight, there's like a deep level of intimacy present because you're letting the other person see that ugly side of you. So it got me curious, is there a difference between prepping for an argument scene versus a more romantic one with that intimacy there?
That's such a good point. I've actually said that before in the past too, which is like when you really can tell people are intimate isn't when they're like being kissy and lovey, it's when they're fighting. Right?
Yeah.
That's when you know something's up, right? Like, and so, yeah, I think for us, there was a lot of prep into understanding who these people were, where they came from, how did they even get to this point? Like, where is the love?
Where is the love? We spent more time thinking about them, 15 years ago than we did them now, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that had to feel real for you to buy anything that followed. That there had to be a sense of loss.
Yeah, for you to anyone to even care.
Yeah.
To even care, you know, that like, why
or
is
if they're
this?
just two miserable people just hurling insults at each other.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to do a YouTube spin-off. It's just us hurling really awful insults at each other, but there'll be no backstory.
No love, no backstory, none. Yeah.
I'm sure the numbers would pop off for sure. I would actually love if you guys could give me a scene breakdown of the inciting incident because I was wondering how many takes did you get to do it based off of like how many props were available to destroy?
Oh yeah, that part. That part they had a lot of research actually.
They did.
The whole fight was broken up into 3 scenes. So there was inside the kitchen, then we did that part, then we went out to the mulch. Mm-hmm. We had dinner with Bono. It's my favorite line in the whole show. And then
you chased me into the
and
ADU.
then I chased you into the ADU, hurl your phone on the floor, and then that was the part that probably took the longest figuring that out. Not just in terms of the choreography of how we ended up in that moment, but also just in terms of the emotional, what's the worst thing?
Yeah.
What's like the really what they're arguing about? They're not arguing about mulch or Bono.
No.
Or the dog,
The dog or the house.
or drinking too much. It's really that, maybe they've made a horrible choice by being together.
And then you've been wasting your life, and you've just been punishing.
Yeah. And actually there was a different line that was to do with sleeping with other people or something that was sort of horrible, but it wasn't really. And we tried a few takes and it just didn't work. And then Sonny came over to us and he said to me, I don't think you want to say that. I think you want to say, you've wasted my whole life. And I was like, that's what it is. And then that.
Yeah, and the inciting incident really is the act of a glass being thrown, right? That's the beginning of actual spilling into real violence, right, of any kind.
Yeah.
And so figuring out that puzzle of like, who throws their wine first and why is the wine being thrown off of what line, and then how does that escalate to a moment of us being in this tableau?
Yeah.
Right?
Wow, that's so interesting. Like, I love that he, fed that too, because it's like, that just pierces you right through the heart. Yeah. Do you guys have any tips on a great show argument?
Rehearsing, like knowing it like a play.
Yeah.
We knew the words like a play, so that then Sonny could drop in a line.
Exactly.
And we changed a couple little things in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Because then I said, I hate you, and you were like,
I knew it. There it is.
There it is. But because we knew the words like a play, we could sort of mess around with it.
Well, it was exceptional to watch and definitely, sets the tone for the rest of the season. But, I'm sure there's a lot of trust there, right? And you guys have obviously worked together many times before on Drive and Inside Llewyn Davis. So how do you guys look back on your work together, especially since Drive is turning 15 this year?
Is it? So then we made it 16 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's about
That's
right.
math.
Okay. We just had a minor disagreement about
Yes,
this.
we
earlier.
did.
Okay.
We did. So it is.
Yeah, 16.
Hopefully not argument-inducing.
It was getting close.
There it is.
All right.
It's 16.
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
It's been
But we'd said a lot, didn't we, that we were the Kaylee and Charles on that show.
That's right. We were in the Kaylee.
So we were like, we were the kids. Now we're the grown-ups.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and just to be able to kind of bring all that into the show, and the fact that those films, I worked on Drive for maybe a week, and then Carey worked on Inside Llewyn Davis for about a week, and so to finally get something where we really have months and months together.
Such a long time.
It was lovely.
Absolutely. It was lovely for us to watch, I will say that. Now, Oscar, I heard that when you started your work on Beef, you had to maybe find a way to say goodbye to Victor Frankenstein first. So how did you go about that? Like, was there a particular scene that you let Victor have a go at?
No, what happened was it was actually it was kind of in the middle of the shoot. I was finding my voice was going, and I just was like frustrated. I think just like physically, and so I met with this great acting teacher that we work with, Kim sometimes, Kim Gillingham, and I told her about my issue, and she's like, "Well, let's have Victor come back and talk to Josh." Oh. And so we did this thing where we did that. She put me in a hypnotic state, and Victor came back and was just so angry about having to be trapped in Josh's little body, you know, and so that there was just a moment of just relinquishing over to Josh, you know, and that was a very fun experiment to do, of like allowing Josh to have some physical pleasure from what was happening.
That's good. And now, Carey, I heard that you organized an escape room experience for everyone before filming. So who was the most helpful? Who took charge? Who was like an observer? And then did that translate over to their acting styles on set?
It was so hard.
It was really hard.
It was a really good one. It was in LA, but it was unbelievably hard. I'm not sure I'm a big fan of the ones that are so hard. Who was good?
It was almost more like a ride.
It was like very complicated. You went from room to room to room. Who was good? I feel like Charles was like very enthusiastic.
Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah.
Sonny
was
trying to figure stuff out.
Charlie was trying to figure stuff out quite. Jake was pretty good.
Yeah.
We were all slightly perplexed. I think it was a level up from any. I've done quite a few escape rooms. In my time.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at them, but I love them.
Okay.
And you wanted to do that instead of in lieu of something else. You're like, in lieu of like a dinner or something, let's go do
No,
it.
we had dinner afterwards, but I was like, in lieu, I pitched it as in lieu of a read-through, but they made us do a read-through.
Right.
I hate read-throughs. Like,
That's what it was.
Let's not do that. Let's do an escape room. No, it was just a sort of fun thing because we know each other so well. We didn't know the kids. We call them the kids. It's so unfair.
People are mid-20s.
No,
Charles is 33.
Charles is 30. But I was like, we've got to all be best friends. But it was good, but we were all slightly dumbfounded. It was really hard and we didn't get it. And then at the end, the guy came in and was like, do you want to know what happens if you'd actually finished it? And it was so cool. He showed us.
Very cool.
It was so cool, but we never in a million years
No.
would have completed that.
Well, maybe sometime in the future for a
Maybe we'll give
reunion,
it
you guys
another
can
go.
do that. Yeah,
See
exactly.
what we can
We
remember.
should see if shooting the thing has given us any.
I doubt it has.
So I just have to ask, your impressions of Beef season 1, what were they? And then your reactions to getting the script for season 2.
When episode 3 happened for me, I thought that was just kind of blew my mind because seeing that incredible scene with Stephen in the evangelical church and the singing and and then him breaking down. It had both the ridiculousness of the situation that you're kind of laughing at and also all of the poignancy and the emotion of it, and then ending with the Incubus song. There was something about it that just felt very close to my experience, being an immigrant, coming to this country, being in that evangelical community, the music, all these things. And I was really taken aback by that. And then, of course, as it went on, both the tone of it, the performances, again, like the music as it went on.
Yeah.
And so then talking with Sonny, I was so excited to see what he was coming up with for this second season. And then as he talked about it, just got even more excited about the scope of it becoming bigger.
I think deep down we both knew it was a temporary Band-Aid.
Band-Aid for what?
For the immense pain of knowing that you picked the wrong person.
I want to get to Gen Z versus millennials.
Yeah.
What was interesting to you both about exploring that generational divide?
This season again was based on a real life incident. Season 1 was a road rage incident I had gotten into in season 2. In my neighborhood, and I'll speak vaguely since I still live in said neighborhood. I had overheard let's call it in Josh's word, a heated debate coming from a couple's home. And the incident itself wasn't that interesting to me. It was more everyone's reactions to it. And I found when I was telling the story to younger peers, they'd react like Ashley and Austin. There's the Gen Z peers who are like, oh my gosh, did you call the police? Are they okay? You know, they're like gasping and clutching their pearls. Whereas my elder millennial peers or Gen X peers would just be like, yeah, it's a fight. And so that's really what spawned the season is juxtaposing the theme of love against different periods in your life. And, you know, Charles is technically a younger millennial, but he definitely engages the spirit of Gen Z at times.
Zillennial, as they call it.
Yes.
I'm a zillennial.
Yeah.
There you go.
I left no crumbs. My crumbs were
Exactly.
eaten.
That's so you could see
Perfect.
it's cusp. It's cusp.
It's the new astrology sign. It's like
Yes.
the cusp of zillennial.
Yes.
Zillennial.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Zillennial.
What about you? What was interesting to you about exploring the generational divide?
I mean, it was everything. I mean, you know, what I love about Sunny as an artist is there are no limits to his art and his storytelling. And it touches on many universal aspects that we find within our own complexity in humanity, right? And, you know, spoiler alert, what I loved with how, you know, with Samsara and just like the circle of life and generations and different chapters of relationships and loves, like they all kind of repeat themselves at a different point. And they're influenced by the construct of capitalism. You're seeing all these characters, which was so fun, navigating their morality while hiding and wearing these masks, so to speak. With Austin specifically, there's a conviction in his identity, which he slowly realizes is a mask. And then he is confronted with his true self, his shadow self. And those were just a small part of many conversations, philosophical, existential conversations that Sunny would have with all of us individually that just fed and informed the work to exist in this reality that Sunny created.
Wow. I feel like I have to give you an applause for that answer because it's like you really just you dissected basically
good.
everything that I felt in
Yeah.
watching this season. And I mean, watching season 1 of Beef, it knocked me off my feet, but season 2 like blew me away.
Oh,
Wow.
Thank you.
I really, really loved it. And I think that has a lot to do with who you brought together this season, the
Yes,
cast.
absolutely.
So what's so special to you about this group?
I mean, number one, it's just their like pure talent, their technical skill. It's unmatched. You know, I saw Charles in May, December, and was blown away like everybody else. Specifically, the roof scene where I think it was right after he smokes weed and he's processing all these emotions. It's so heartbreaking, but also hilarious, which is very hard to do at the same time. And you look at the entire cast; they've done it their whole careers. And you know, Kaylee Spaney, I've been a fan of since Devs. I think it's an underrated show, and she's the best part of that show. You know, obviously Carey and Oscar, like who isn't a fan? They've accomplished so much in their tenured careers, but also together. You know, through Drive and in St. Louis and Davis, it felt very appropriate for them to now reunite on their third thing, playing a married couple of 15 years. You know, and I'd be remiss not to mention the Korean goats in terms of Yoon Yo-jung and Song Kang-ho. I mean, legends.
Yeah.
And so that shooting them in Korea at a more Pacific building, which you don't get to normally shoot at, shooting a scene that they've never been in a scene together throughout their careers, throughout Korean cinema history. So doing that, and in the middle of shooting it, I was like just about to start directing, and director Bong Joon-ho showed up on set and surprised us and said hello. And
Oh my gosh.
he came
What
up to
was
the
that?
monitor and he elbowed me and he was like, "Are you sure you want to frame it like that?" I was like, "No, whatever you want." But that was peak. That you know, that I can retire and just be like happy that happened. Yeah.
That's so incredible.
Yeah.
What was your reaction when you saw it or when he elbowed you?
I was like, I just like turned to a little kid around him. And, once we started shooting the scene, he was in Video Village, and I looked back and he was leaning in, he had his headphones on, he was dying laughing. And that just brought me so much relief where I'm like, look, if Director Bong's laughing, then we're good.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's such an incredible moment.
Yeah.
I'm really happy that happened. So Charles, I want to talk about Austin and Ashley and their relationship, because they start out so naive, but it's like so endearing, right? We've all kind of been there in our younger relationships. What was it like to work with Kaylee and figuring out those emerging issues within their dynamic?
Yeah, Kaylee, she is a phenomenal artist, a phenomenal friend, and a phenomenal collaborator. And, Sonny brought us together, and I think he knew, he was, chefing up the soup, putting in all the right ingredients, and it was a perfect match.
Yeah.
Kaylee and I, she's from the Midwest, I'm from the Midwest. We took our families to a Kansas City Chiefs football game. We had a lot of conversations with ourselves as far as what was the genesis of Austin and Ashley before we got to page 1. And we did a lot of work sessions together, spent a lot of time with each other, keep in touch. She's booked and busy. We miss her.
Yes.
But this job as an actor for us, it's exciting when there's such a open, collaborative process where you're in the weeds together, trying to find the truth and get down to the bottom of it. And we were all there in it together. Me, Sonny, Carey, Oscar, Kaylee, Song Kang-oh, YJ, Soyeon, Big Matthew.
Yeah. It was just a top-notch cast from top to bottom.
Yeah.
And, I think so much of the writing won't live or stand on its feet without these little interesting textures that everyone brings from real life.
Yes.
I think the universe is much more of a narrative genius than any of us can be. So we're just trying to stay open, stay observant, and just take those textures and find a place for it in the show.
Yeah.
Well, it definitely comes through. I do have to ask, though, about this amazing Austin moment in the show, because he has so many, great self-pity moments. And I think the one that made me laugh the most was when he was listening to What Was I Made For by himself. And then, of course, Phineas scored this season. So what do you love about moments like those?
It wasn't scripted as such. We found that in the edit.
Yeah. It's amazing to see just the medium of music and the choices Sonny makes to add another texture to the work from me, the act, and specifically in that moment, and throughout the whole season, just the performances. I definitely laughed out loud because if I were to describe what Austin was feeling in that moment, is that song.
Yeah. And then we found in the mix, too, that I thought it would be funny if at first he's trying to lower the volume, but it gets higher.
Yes.
And so then Charles had a lot of fun in the ADR booth, being like, oh, shit. And then trying to lower the volume. So yeah, that's we're just, it's never ending. We just keep having conversations until ideas stop, which they don't.